So in the very first, you have a little scale, but that's kind of boring. So we have, he does, that's called kind of a turn. You know what a turn is. So the rule is, if you have little notes, which these are, you lean into them because they're tiny, and if you just play them regular, they're lost. Here's regular. Boring. You see that kind of spotlights them. So let's try that first. And now we're going up high. So we're going, so we want to crescendo as we go up. Now, so let's try that. Here's little notes. And now you comment on it. And right here, I'm boisterous. You know what boisterous means? And I like these pretty, not, but, so it's one U-shaped motion of my arm and a fishing line here. Again, and I'm right here, so I just, let's finish it. And are you really, do you have the string? Are you grabbing it? That's it. That note isn't longer. And now, and you have to energize the little notes. And isn't it cool that he's going to find another kind of embroidery, another decoration to go up the same scale to F, but it's a little different this time. And, come on. And high notes are to be celebrated. Every high note needs to be a rose. And your head goes up and you say, isn't that the most beautiful note? Finish it. And now this is the one that is longer. See, these are short ones. All right, so where are we now in the music? What is this next thing you're going to play?
It's the exposition.
The whole big thing is the exposition, and the next page is the development, and the third page is the recapitulation. But within the exposition, there are parts. So what are the parts in the exposition? It starts with a T, H. Themes. So the first theme often is very strong, very boisterous, very present. The second theme is always contrasting in a really different nature and a different tone color. And usually a different key, but Haydn, who kind of invented this form, always likes to break his own rules. So we are not in G major where we should be in the dominant, but we are starting on G, but we're still in C major. This first thing goes up. This one comes, and that's all he's doing. I mean, this whole thing is we're going to go up, and now we're going to come down. But how does he come down? So is on the C major chord, what are the notes?
C, D.
C and a C major chord. C.
Oh, C, E, and G.
C, and E, G. So, but we have an F. So that's called a non-harmonic tone. It doesn't belong to the chord. And the D doesn't belong. So the, I'm talking about embroidery and lace, and these all have names. We've talked about turns, you use turns. These are called non-harmonic tones, passing tones, because we would, boring, more interesting. And on the beat, so they're stressed notes are notes that don't belong to the chord. Those need special treatment. They're not just like you're playing them, a little more vibrato. You acknowledge that they're interesting notes. So all interesting notes, little notes, need a little attention. Let's play that. Now we're going to go on. Now, do you know what these are called?
I remember Jake telling me the name, but I can't remember what it was.
I call these Mannheim rockets. There was a man named, what was his name? An English writer, Bernie. And, you know, there was no YouTube and there was no internet. So if you wanted to see how something was, you had to go there and visit. So he was a writer, and he thought that there would be a market if he went around to all the great music centers in Europe and wrote essays about what was going on there. So he wrote a book, The State of Music in France, The State of Music in Italy, The State of Music in Germany. So when he went to Germany, he went to a town that he had heard about called Mannheim, and they were very advanced. Some of the orchestras were pretty undisciplined. Their bows would go wrong, and they would play out of tune, and it was just pretty, and a lot of them didn't have conductors. The first violinist would try to lead the group in the music while they were playing. So in Mannheim, there was a lot of composers and very fine musicians. The state of the music in that town was really, really high. So the sometimes a composer, he's here, but he actually wants to be here. And so how am I going to get from here to here is the compositional thing. So they made a practice of doing these rocket scales, these kind of exciting scales, so they could get up to the note that they wanted to. And so it was so predominant in their music that we call those Mannheim rockets. Rockets like a rocket going into the air and shooting stars. So all of these, and look, you have it here, you have it here, you have it there. It's just, it got to be a style. Now, Haydn wasn't from Mannheim, but everybody in Germany knew that, in Austria knew that style because it was such a cool way of getting there. So when you get, you need a little pizzazz when you get that. And just think that you're a firecracker going up into the air. So let's do that. But you're so boring. I can get more excitement when I'm a little further out. All right, now we're finished with that exciting thing, and now we're back to the lyric. And now reply. And so this is, we've been lyric, and this is the replying answer. Do you know about phrases, subsequent and consequent phrases, and how they're put together? Okay. This is pretty typical classical fare. So often in music, you have a little idea, 2 measures, maybe 2 measures, and then you have 4 measures. And then that is one idea.
Yeah.
And then you have another one, and that's another idea. And then this is an idea of itself, and there may be a matching set over here. So it's like nesting dolls. And this is very typical of classical ideas. So when you play, you need to be aware of how your phrases balance. And look, it's kind of like those pictures I showed you of the opera houses. I mean, the curves and the balanced thing, like in the gardens. So when we do this, and what's this? What's a turn? So the dissonance, and what's this?
Tension and release.
Tension and release. So now, you do that on an up bow or down bow? I think it's on an up bow, yes. So that's tricky, and all of your interesting notes, you sound just bland to me. Everything is beautiful and nice, but there's no lace in it. There's no detail. Yes, now we're going to start climbing. And so there's your high note. The last high note was A. Now we've climbed to C. Now this is fun. Now these echo this, but this is and these are now cute. They're kind of happy. Go. Rock. You want more vibrato, less vibrato. And the second one is louder than the first. I didn't hear that. Place in the piece. Where has there been a forte before this? Here and at the beginning. But in this section of the piece, this is pretty big. Your dynamic range is here. It needs to be this expanding. So can you really give some energy to this? Down bow. This a little bit. Short idea, this one. Little idea. Balanced by the longer one, which equals these. And now we're going to do short. And now we do long and